Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's deep dive into Veritas Alta Copilot. Today, we have Drew, Principal Product Manager for AI, here with us to talk about the capabilities of Veritas Alta Copilot and how we're making it easier than ever for our customers to simplify data management. Drew, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Varun. Always great to see you.
Awesome. So let's talk about how Alta Copilot uses retrieval augmented generation and natural language processing to make our customers' lives easier. Can you dive deeper into those capabilities?
Yeah, sure thing. So Alta Copilot is made up of a large language model. These are models that are very advanced and are trained off of massive corpi, which is plural for corpus, by the way. And rather than fine tune or try to add to that data set that they're originally trained on, RAG, otherwise known as retrieval augmented generation, is a way to kind of connect an additive library to the LLM. So rather than mess with any of the LLM's kind of training or its chemistry or its performance, all we do is point it to a curated library of, in this case, Veritas product documentation, thereby almost overnight making it an expert in our product lines.
And Drew, large language models are all the rage. Can you speak to how this is different from chatbots in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. So previous chatbots were deterministic, using heuristics and keywords, right? As you alluded to just a moment ago, natural language processing has come such a long way, even from when I started in it in 2016. Really, the magic here is not only the natural language processing, but it's the natural language processing that's combined with natural language understanding, and then further combined with newer search technologies that are semantic in nature, which are typically referred to as either vectorization or graph, depending on what method you're using. And this all comes together to provide a much richer, more human interaction, conversational, degree of interaction with the conversational LLM that uses essentially natural language to interact.
That's awesome. And I think the conversational UI is something that became really popular once ChatGPT came out. And now everyone's just used to that highly accessible, easy to use interface. And it's part of our journey in simplifying our user experience as well. So I'm glad that we're bringing that in. Let's dive deeper into the practical use cases for our customers. A lot of our customers are dealing with challenges around backup and recovery. Can you dive deeper into how Alta Copilot helps them in their day-to-day lives?
Sure thing. So our North Star in general with our AI products is essentially twofold, right? So anything that is considered tedious, laborious, repetitive, monotonous, any of these functions that humans hate doing, we're trying to automate those to free up those human operators to do more valuable work. That's one vein. The other vein is in terms of how we augment your workday. If you're a rookie, if you're entry level, if you're a generalist, if you're someone who's kind of new to a pretty deep and demanding domain expertise, our AI is designed to kind of help expedite your upskilling or expand your knowledge reach in order to make you a more effective employee. And if you're someone who's advanced and experienced, what we're doing is we're not trying to expand what you know. You already know what you're doing. But what we are doing is we're cutting a few corners and making your talents much more accelerated in terms of the velocity at which you operate and the efficiency at which you operate. And so when you kind of combine those two North Stars, you get what we have. And what is behind the curtain, there's a lot of very complex things going on. And the magic is using a large language model to kind of simplify those outputs and guide or direct, again, like a rookie or an entry level associate in one direction, or speed up an experienced operator.
Fantastic. I think one of the things that you would do if you were a backup admin in the platform, you would actually want to configure a backup policy, or you would want to troubleshoot specific tasks. Can you dive deeper into what those customer pain points are that we've solved today and save them a ton of time?
Yeah, absolutely. So two things that we're actively investigating are both the policy creation as well as configuration settings. Without getting into too many specifics or too deep into the weeds, policies require somewhere along the magnitude of about 75 different data points in order to formulate. Configuration settings are actually higher; they're more like 240. So for a human operator to go through each one of the 75 is kind of a daunting task. Oftentimes you'll see people, for the sake of simplicity or time constraints, clone something that's basically incomplete or incomplete, right? Something that has 50 of those 75 defined and the other 25 are either undefined or in a default state. So what we can end up doing is, again, behind the curtain, you end up having machine learning model after machine learning model working on this to monitor, analyze, and report against what is protected, what's not protected. And then furthermore, based on both all available mapping of the schema as well as customer historical data, make recommendations as to best practice, right? And thereby saving an operator a ton of time, effort, and most importantly, cognitive load. The less that people have to kind of think about what they're doing, and the less that they get distracted by some of these very in the weeds decisions that, at the end of the day, oftentimes are kind of trivial, but also need to get completed. That's where the AI really shines. It takes some of these, it takes the onus of some of these activities away, and again, frees people up to do more valuable work.
Love that. We've talked a great deal about how we're bringing self-serve product support to our customers with the help of generative AI. One of the really core features of Alta Copilot right out the gate is dynamic data visualization. And we also talk about the reporting capabilities in there. Can you dive deeper into how that specifically works?
Yeah, this one's very near and dear to my heart because, quite candidly, I hate doing MBRs and QBRs. So with generative reporting, we right now generate the tabular data based on a natural language query. So the secret sauce with our reporting in the LLM is what used to be a SQL call is now something you execute in plain language without any knowledge of SQL being required. That translation into SQL delivers the tabular reports. The tabular reports are then put into a data visualization, so you can make it, a pie chart or a scatter plot or a bar graph or whatever you ask via the natural language interface. And then in addition to that, the LLM also has the capability of producing a narrative summary of the report outputs, thereby effectively automating the entire MBR QBR process, which, again, very near and dear to my heart.
That's awesome. And Drew, I think we talked a great deal about generative AI, and it's all the rage, right? It's definitely one of the most innovative platform shifts that's happened in a while. But traditional AI is still around. It's still highly compelling. I almost think of it like Batman, an unsung hero, if you will, right? So if you talk about traditional AI, we've been using it in AI-powered anomaly detection, for example. But I think we're going to continue to use it because there would be use cases where maybe you don't need a large language model. Maybe you can train a lightweight self-supervised model or unsupervised model. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're spot on. I would argue that the large language models we have today, ever expanding, if anything, the pendulum will start swinging the other way. And what you'll see is this trend of using smaller data sets of more curated data, higher value, higher fidelity data in order to accomplish more with less. I frequently use data as refined fuel as an analogy. And the further you refine the fuel, the further that high-tuned engine will go, right? And so if we start getting to a point where the technology will allow to use, a smaller degree of higher curated data, we're off to the races. Now, to go back to your point a moment ago, generative AI is awesome. It's really cool. The obvious joke is that AI didn't exist until ChatGPT. But at the end of the day, data is not going anywhere, right? None of this works without data, and that's going to be a constant throughout this journey, right? Even if you start talking about practices such as synthetic data. The other thing is, your good old garden variety machine learning is not going anywhere anytime soon. It may very well be supplanted by technological advances in the future, but really the magic is happening with the ML models, right? Like this is all like if it's not for very clean, high fidelity, high quality data going through very, very well structured and well produced machine learning models. In our case, the large language model doesn't have anything of high quality to surface, right? And so all of the magic does happen, behind the curtain or off stage. And you may be interacting with what's on stage, and that may be very impressive, and it is. But at the end of the day, it's there's an absolute armada of support mechanisms that are the data and the machine learning models behind the scenes that are making all of this productivity capable. Really, it's what you don't see.
Well said. Like data quality is everything, and the pre-processing that you can put in to actually make your model more effective by ensuring there's high quality data is highly impactful and can really lead to a lot more efficiency. One of the things that, Drew, we've been thinking about is Alta Copilot is just the beginning. We're scratching the surface, and there's a lot more in terms of our journey towards autonomous data management that we're thinking about. Can you speak to what's ahead?
I'd love to. I don't really think anyone knows what's ahead. But what, if you follow any other technological advances, what you're going to see is you're going to see increased simplicity. You're going to see ever more human-like interaction. You'd imagine that, especially when it comes to large language models, like the conversational elements will become much, much sharper. And even some of the, with how magical the technology appears to us as end users nowadays, you can still tell you're talking to a machine. And that line is about to get more and more blurred as we advance forward. And then also, to your point, advances in the way that we process and curate and handle data, those will only get more and more advanced as well. Typically, and our RAG is a great kind of example of this. Typically, the data that's being used today was never intended for any of these purposes. But as we move forward, the data that's being produced today, and we're producing more of it than ever before, it is intended for these purposes. And it is going through some of these refinement, enrichment, and curation processes. And that's all leading towards a future whereby we are becoming ever more blended with the machines around us. And I think if I had to pick any, kind of as Isaac Asimov type prediction, that's where we're going to go. We're going to see on many different levels more of a melding of man and machine, almost to the point where we won't be able to tell.
I think there's going to be different use cases where it makes sense to have a co-pilot and where it makes sense to have more of an autopilot like capability. And you just have the AI working autonomously to take care of your needs. And you can essentially just make sure that you set up the environment in a way that is right for you, and so you can intervene as needed. We're not taking the human out of the loop, but we're making sure that you have the ability to configure whether it's a co-pilot or an autopilot where you need it to be. So, Drew, to wrap up, what would be your message for our customers, and how can they start to engage with our technology today?
My message for our customers would be: I love the phrase pragmatic utility. That's where we want our AI to be here at Veritas. We want to be where the rubber meets the road. It's great. It's great to be leveraging a lot of these advanced technologies. I love that. But my focus as a product manager is always about delivering value to the customer and doing the most for their business problems. AI and ML, they're tools. They're tools that need to be yielded in an appropriate way to solve real life problems. That's the passion that keeps me in this space. And so my message to customers would be like, let's figure out how to solve your problem. We've got a whole tool set. We don't need to use every tool for every job. But I'm somewhat customer obsessed with doing so.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of your insights, Drew. If you're new to Alta Copilot, check it out in action. We have a really cool demo for you. And we also have a series of videos to help you better understand the ins and outs of generative AI called the Explore AI series. Check that out as well. And thank you so much for watching.